softly since I'm outside, but I'm currently sitting in a park right now in the heat dome that's covering parts of the US right now, and I'm gonna take notes on a book I recently finished reading, which is by James Baldwin, one of my favorite authors, and it's called Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone. I don't really know why it's called that. I feel like I should look up what that means. There was like one character who said the train's been gone for a minute or something like that, and towards the beginning of the novel. I don't know why. Also, I'm facing a field right now, and I'm really sorry for the wind. And if you can hear crinkling / rolling plastic in the background, there's a bunch of littered water bottles everywhere. Honestly, maybe I'll pick them up when I'm done with this. But this is my journal. Doesn't it give justice? Oh, I was saying that there's people who are running and walking on this field right now. The sun just went away. I'm facing a field. Like, oh my gosh, there's a man in black sweatpants and all black shirt. Sir, I don't see any of these people holding water. They're crazy. If I did that, I know I would pass out. Okay, I had to go message my boss. But this is my journal. And I'm gonna be taking some notes and reading passages from Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone. But first, I need to play with this. And we can make her keep one eye out for Selena. Sorry if you hear background noises. The public is out and I'm in a public space. I'm gonna watch Love Island later. It's Casa Amor. Casa Amor. Okay, but let's get to it. So I just earmarked pages that interested me, passages that interested me. So it might take me a second to find what I'm looking for. It was a good book. I definitely need to look some stuff up about it because there's one specific passage where I was just like, what? And it was like never spoken about again. It's something that happens when the main character, Leo Proudhammer's brother, returns from prison. And this book is basically tracing the life of Leo Proudhammer. I love that name. But it opens with him having a heart attack on stage. And he's a famous actor, but it's about his life, and he spends most of the book struggling to become an actor as a black man in America. He grew up in Harlem. I think maybe my favorite passages was with Leo as a kid, and it really shows, the book shows just the hatred that on both sides that racism breeds. And when I say both sides, I'm not making an excuse for white people and like their bigotry, but I'm basically saying like it really, like, hatred just festers in Leo, which is unavoidable and not by his own doing. I feel Baldwin, in addition to Toni Morrison, are really skilled at capturing how racism just poisons every aspect of a society and a person. Okay, there's a man coming. Let's all ignore the man. The man who's been walking by, I'm in like a secluded part. He has a thick southern accent. I'm currently in Nashville, as you can see, but I'm not from here. He's like, I'm in the business. He's like, I'm in the business of making money. The judge, she's never owned a business. For all her prowess that she likes to talk, he's kind of talking like that. I can't do it that good. I have to do like a deeper voice, but it's very similar to the father on the latest season of White Lotus, in my opinion. Okay. Okay. I like this passage. Such playmates as I had, in spite of my size and strangeness, my helpless ambiguity, I eventually dominated without quite knowing how this had come about. I was able to do it, that was all, and therefore condemned to do it. I know that as I grew older, I became tyrannical. I had no choice. My life was in the balance. Whoever went under, it was not going to be me, and I seem to have been very clear about this from the beginning of my life. To run meant to turn my back on lions. To run meant the flying tackle which would bring me down. And anyway, run where? Certainly not to my father and mother, certainly not to Caleb. Therefore, I had to stand. To stand meant that I had to be insane. People who imagine themselves to be, as they put it, in their right minds, have no desire to tangle with the insane. They stay far away from them, or they ingratiate them. It took me almost no time to realize this. People who imagine themselves to be, as they put it, in their right minds have no desire to tangle with the insane. To stand meant that I had to be insane. Therefore, I had to make It took me almost no time to realize this. I used what I knew. I knew that what sport for others was life or death to me. Therefore, I had to make it a matter of life or death for them. Not many are prepared to go so far, at least not without the sanction of uniform. But this absolutely single-minded and terrified ruthlessness was masked by my obvious vulnerability, my paradoxical and very real helplessness. And it covered my terrible need to lie down, to breathe deep, to weep long and loud, to be held in human arms, almost any human arms, to hide my face in any human breast, to tell it all, to let it out, to be brought into the world, and out of human affection, to be born again. What a dream. Is it a dream? I don't know. I only know what happened, if indeed I can claim to know that. My pride became my affliction. I found myself imprisoned in the stronghold I'd built. The day came when I wished to break my silence and found that I could not speak. The actor could no longer be distinguished from his role. When I first read this, and I think I still feel that way, I felt that he was talking about his kind of unflinching dedication to his pursuit to become an actor, and how he became tyrannical in that pursuit because he had to be to get what he wanted, especially as a Black man. But how that came at the price of his aloneness. Okay. I'm writing, tell me how long the train's been gone. I like to write Goodreads reviews, and I've been doing it for all the books I've been reading lately because I would usually just rank them, but I don't know if I can do this book justice. I didn't really take notes, and I also listen to the audiobook a lot. But when I read, sometimes when I read, I like to just write quotes that I like in my journal after the fact. So I'm doing that right now. I'm not going to do the whole passage, but I've also been very into Tetris lately. So that's what I was doing. I was playing Tetris and listening to the audiobook. Not many are prepared to go so far. At least not without the sanction of a uniform. But this absolutely single-minded and terrible ruthlessness was masked by my obvious vulnerability. My paradoxical and very real helplessness. Helplessness. And it covered my terrible need to lie down. My terrible need to lie down, to breathe deep, to weep long and loud, to be held in human arms, almost any human arms. Sorry, there's a helicopter. I think it's the Vanderbilt Medical Center helicopter. So maybe it's delivering medical supplies or getting help to somebody in need. To say I meant that I had to be insane. People who allow themselves to be, as they put it, in their right minds. People who imagine themselves to be, as they put it. Oh, sorry. In their rights, minds, have no desire to tangle. With the insane. Okay. Let's see. And formed the habit of climbing in and out of each other's windows, walking through each other's doors. We drank beers in the bars in the village, shamelessly flattering the uptown strangers who drank whiskey, who ordered whiskey for us, who might buy us a meal. To lean at the candle of our ardor and our youth in return for holding us, who desperately wanted to be held. I have both pages. Bookmarks. I used to never earmark my books, and I used to look down at people who did, but now I do it all the time. Sorry. Okay. There were, I'm sure, hundreds of people there, and both Barbara and I, in our bright blue, dull dark fashions, were intimidated by them all. They glittered, they flashed, they resounded. They had that air, inimitable, absolutely, of those who have succeeded. We recognized many of them, for many of them were famous. And many playwrights and many directors. I was amazed that I recognized so many. Yes, we were dazzled indeed, in the long, high room, this elegant room. Elegant if one bears in mind that elegance is scarcely permissible in America. They seemed different, both younger and older, for one saw the faces off guard in life, and certainly smaller than they appeared on stage or screen. One saw that so-and-so's teeth, for example, were a little crooked, and this one had bow legs. This one was very drunk and was clearly intending to become drunker. One very famous actress struck me as having very narrowly missed being a dwarf, but she had seemed very tall in her regal robes when I'd seen her on the stage as the queen of all the Russias. It may have been that night that I really decided to attempt to become an actor, really became committed to this impossibility. It is certain that this night brought into my mind, in an astounding way, the great question of where the boundaries of reality were truly to be found. If a dwarf could be a queen and make me believe that she was 6 feet tall, then why was it not possible that I, brief, wiry, dull, dark me, could become an emperor? The Emperor Jones, say, why not? And I then watched everybody with this cruel intention in my mind. I'm gonna write down if one bears in mind that elegance is scarcely permissible in America. He can be very, very, very harsh about America, rightly so, for all the persecution he faced. If one bears in mind that elegance is scarcely permissible. Permissible in America. Okay. Barbara, meanwhile, was being very much the heiress of all Kentucky. She was armed with her beauty, and she knew it, and her intentions were no less cruel than mine. If the other guests flashed, glittered, resounded, she more than confronted this display with her own unanswerable radiance, an innocence more presumed on their part than assumed on hers. But she was certainly no more above using their presumptions against them than I was, and a trick she had, which was to make her fortune later, of dropping her voice. She knew how to make the company know that though they had fame, she had youth, and time was on her side. I think I like that line. She knew how to make the company know that though they had fame, she had youth, and time was on her side. Though they had fame, they had fame. She had youth, and time was on her side. Okay. Next. I felt like a boy. I wanted to please her. I touched the piano keyboard lightly. Would you like me to try to play something for you? Would you like that? I know this part I liked. I was beginning to apprehend the unutterable dimension of the universal trap. I was human too, and my race was revealed as my pain. My pain and my rage could have no reason, nor submit to my domination, until my pain was assessed, until my pain became invested with a coherence and an authority which only I alone could provide. And this possibility, the possibility of creating my language out of my pain, of using my pain to create myself, while cruelly locked in the depths of me, like the beginning of life and the beginning of death, yet seemed for an instant to be on the tip of my tongue. My pain was the horse that I must learn to ride. I flicked my cigarette out of the window and watched it drop and die. I thought of throwing myself after it. I was no rider, and pain was no horse. I was standing near a piano. A strange girl with real eyes and a real face was watching me with a smile. "You've been very far away," she said. "Yes," I said. Somehow she cheered me. My heart lifted up. We smiled at each other. "Yes, but I'm back now." "Welcome," she said. "Welcome." Okay. This possibility and this possibility. The possibility of creating my language out of my pain, of using my pain to create myself. While cruelly locked in the depths of me, like the beginning of life, and the beginning of death, yet seemed for an instant to be on the very tip, to be on the very tip of my tongue, to be on the very tip of my tongue. My pain was the horse that I must learn to ride. I must learn to ride. Of course, he ends the passage with, I was no rider, and pain was no horse. These are like beautiful, crazy ruminations are just all throughout the book. It's like intense, just mediation, rumination. I don't know what word to use. The song Silver Dagger, which I've been listening to by Dolly Parton, is stuck in my head, and it's like, don't sing love songs, you'll make my mother. I can't sing. Okay, I had to share that. At one point in the scene, after remembering their furtive lovemaking in parks and hallways, the girl offers to go with Sid to a room somewhere, but he refuses. He says there is no future for them. There is great tension in the scene, which connected with an unspoken tension in us, and we began to be appalled. For it is also the most crucial of love scenes, the moment of loss and failure. Perhaps a great deal of superstition was mixed with our recoil. I don't in detail remember the scene very well anymore, but perhaps I'll never forget how it choked me, made me stammer, how it caused me sometimes almost to hate Barbara. This I saw in her bewildered and slowly divining eyes, which both helped the scene and hurt it. For by this time I had become impatient with all my hard labor and wanted to be tested. I realized how unlikely it was that I would ever work on a stage, and I also realized that my future did not really matter to the San Marquettes at all. My future mattered only really. My future mattered really only to me. My future mattered. My future mattered. Really, only to me. I think this was a really interesting book for me to read at this time because I am doing my first internship in an industry I want to have my job in, and I'm alone in Nashville, And I think a lot of his struggle to be an artist is relatable. And I guess there's passages that many young people can relate to. I really don't know how people are exercising in this heat. God bless them. I'm sweating, filming an ASMR video. Okay, next. Please stop the background noise, people, please. Let's see. Whatever they had wanted for me was now locked in the country of dreams. It was now never going to happen. No one knew what was going to happen, and no one could control it. In a way, it can be said that I was the ruin of all their hopes. They had not been able to save me. My life would be like theirs. The streets had claimed me because my challenges were there, and everything now depended on what I could learn in the school which was to prepare me for my life. I was very nearly lost because my elders, though no fault of their own, had betrayed me. Perhaps I loved my father, but I did not want to live his life. I did not want to become like him. He was the living example of defeat. He could not correct me. None of my elders could correct me because I was appalled by their lives. I was old enough to understand how their lives had happened, but rage and pity are not love, and the determination to outwit one's situation means that one has no models, only object lessons. I was no longer Caleb's little brother. I was part of Caleb's heavy load, and this was because he realized that he had become part of mine forever. Covertly against my will, God knows I judged him. My brother, big, black, beautiful, he should have been a king. But his girl, Dolores, had turned into a barmaid whore. Miss Mildred was bigger and more aimless than ever. The treacherous Arthur was always stoned. And now there was something in Caleb, lonely and sad, shrinking and hysterical. It broke my heart to watch him. He had been beaten too hard. None of my elders could correct me. I like that part. I mean, I like all the parts. None of my elders could correct me. Because I was appalled by their lives. I was old enough to understand, old enough to understand how their lives had happened, how their lives had happened. But rage and pity are not love, but rage and pity are not love. And the determination and the determination to outwit one situation. I'm so sorry, there's sirens. Means that one has no model to outwit one situation. Has no model. Only objects lessons. Okay. I was 14. Okay. I hated the people who had beaten him. By the time I was 14, I was certainly ready to kill. There was no reason not to kill. I mean, no moral reason, but there were too many. Too many. There were faces, they were everywhere one turned. The bland, white, happy, stupid faces. I walked the streets. I went to school. I watched them, and I loathed them. My brother. But it is also hard to love the beaten. It means accepting their condition, whereas precisely one is asking oneself, what shall I do to be saved? But it is also hard to love the beaten. Some moments are very sharply in focus, others are dim. I do not subscribe to the superstition that one's understanding of an event alters the events. No, it is the event which does the altering, and the question one faces is how to live with time's brutal alterations. But even the girls I noticed with that really awful increase of awareness, which I owed entirely to Caleb, did not take him seriously. A boy with an unspeakable past was a man with an undurable future. He was good to look at, good to dance with, probably good to sleep with, but he was no longer good for love. I think I like the line, a boy with an unspeakable past was a man with an unendurable future. I don't know if I agree with it though. I would like to be optimistic. Oh, little Leo, go to sleep. I held him as tightly as I could. What did they do to you? Oh, what they did to me. Oh, what they did to me. This was a scene. This was insane, honestly. Yes, yes, yes. I'll love you, Caleb. I'll love you forever. I need to look this up and see what other people think about this part, because I'm not gonna say what happens, because I don't want to spoil this book for you guys more than I am. Okay. I've sometimes thought that there is probably no more vivid rendering of silence and no more definitive image of attention than that presented by Harlem windows some Sunday afternoons. 4 or 5 or 6 stories up or down, the people sit or lean as though they had been stationed or planted there, their faces as still as the stone which frames them. At a top floor window behind the grill work, he is placed there to prevent his children from falling, sits a man wearing a stocking cap holding his infant child. The child is restless, but cheerfully restless, and he easily meets the child's movements by slightly shifting his weight from time to time. If it were not for these slight movements, one might wonder if he realized that he was holding a child at all. His face is attentive, but utterly closed and unmoving. A cigarette smolders between his heavy lips. His eyes are attentive to the smoke. It is impossible to say what he is watching, or if he is watching at all. Yet something is happening to him, in him. One can almost hear small hammers beating and wheels turning just so. The lady on the floor below, her hair tied up in a rag, her elbows on the sill, a fist on either side of her chin. Her face is very black and rather heavy. Her lips are very soft and sad, and her long, dark eyes do not move. At the window next to her sits a very old lady, in profile, with a strong Indian nose, head thrown back, eyes closed, and at the window below this sits a boy of 8 or 9. His chin on the windowsill, his fist covering his ears, his eyes very wide and black. His hair is very short and gleams with Vaseline. A fairly light woman with straightened hair and wearing a black dress sits at the ground floor window with her small daughter standing between her knees. It would appear that they are all watching the streets. The street is very long and wide. On either side of the street, the long gleaming automobiles are parked. The cars are much cleaner than the street. Indeed, one very stocky man in shirt sleeves is busy polishing his car. Garbage cans so full that their lids cannot fit stand before every house, and garbage blows up and down the street and collects in the windy gutters. Cars come through the streets, scattering the boys, and even though it is rather cold today, the streets are never empty. Girls in their finery walk proudly along, sometimes alone, sometimes with each other, sometimes with the boys in their fine clothes. Matrons pass with Bibles. A drunken man comes singing, howling along, his old black overcoat blowing in the wind. Only the children appear to notice him, and this merely to make his life more difficult by calling him and following after him. Everything is happening, and nothing is happening, and everything is still like thunder. One might be in the catacombs with the first believers waiting for a sign, and always the echo of music, the presence of voices as constant and compelling as the movement of the sea. I thought that was an amazing passage. I need water. I'm so hot. Luckily, my water is very cold. How could we fox them if we could neither bear to look at them nor bear it when they looked at us? And who were they anyway? Which was the really terrible, the boomeranging question? I realized that I could not, after all, spend the night walking the streets, so I walked west and I started back uptown. This was the night, but my memory, for reasons which are not at all mysterious, blurs everything here, resists going over the ground again. This was the night that I discovered chaos. Chaos. I don't know why I say it like that. Chaos. Or perhaps it was the night that chaos discovered me, but it certainly began the most dreadful time of my life, the time I am astounded to have survived. It was the first of my nights in hell. This was the night that I discovered chaos. Or perhaps it was a night that chaos discovered me. And I doubted as we stared at each other that even this fear would control him very long. My luck had run out. But it was only the fear of what they might possibly do which prevented him from rising and bouncing me about that room like a ball. Leo, I'm sorry. Oh, Leo, I'm sorry. I knew it then, and I really know it now, but what, I asked myself, was I to do with her? Love, honor, and protect. But these were not among my possibilities. And since they were not, I felt myself bitterly, and most unwillingly, holding myself outside her sorrow, holding myself, in fact, outside her love, holding myself beyond the reach of my blasted possibilities. One cannot dwell on these things, these echoes of what might in some other age and in some other body have been. One must attempt to deal with what is, or else go under, or go mad. And yet, to deal with what is, who can do it? I know that I could not. And yet I knew that I had to try, for there was something in it after all, and I heard it in her sorrow, and I heard it in my heart, and in spite of her hideous condition, which I had to accept, to which I could not say no, I carried her to bed. Leo, 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 Barbara. Love, honor, and protect. Love. Sorry. Love, honor, and protect. I mean, it's lucky I'm an actress. I mean, nothing comes before that, and I know that. And that helps me somehow. Do you know what I mean? I think so. I'm not sure, but I think so. It means, she said, with the gravity of a child, that we must be great. That's all we'll have. That's the only way we won't lose each other. A person can't just decide to be great, Barbara. Some persons can. Some persons must. You think I'm one of those persons? I know you are. I've always known it. She paused. That's how I know, you see, that you don't belong to me. She smiled. But let's be to each other what we can. While we can, I said, watching her. A person can't just decide to be great. A person can't just decide to be great. Some persons can. Some persons must. Sister Barbara, Sister Barbara. People become frightened in very different ways. The ways in which they've become frightened may sometimes determine how long they live. Here I was in the country and on a country road, alone, facing 2 armed white men who had legal sanction to kill me. And if killing me should prove to be an error, it would not matter very much. It would not, for them, be a serious error. It would not cost them their badges or their pensions, for the only people who would care about my death could certainly never reach them. I knew this. It was more vivid to me than the policeman's hands, his breath, his holster. I knew that I was frightened, and I knew how frightened I was, but I remembered, vaguely, reading somewhere that animals can smell fear, and that when they do, they leap and they devour. I was determined that these animals should not smell my fear, and this determination deflected, so to speak, my terror from them to myself. My life was in my hands. I had not guessed what they had come for me, why they had come for me, but I did not know what was going to happen. But I was going to scheme as long as I had breath, and outwit them if I could. It was in vain that I told myself, Leo, this isn't the South. I knew better than to place any hope in the accidents of North American geography. This was America, America, America. Of those people out there, my countrymen. And those people out there, my countrymen, have been tearing me limb from limb like dogs for centuries. I would not be the first. In the bloody event, I would not be the last. It was unbelievably funny. If I had not been handcuffed, I think I might have laughed. But it was not a laughing matter. Baldwin's capture of America. That's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed getting a little look into this book with me. Like I said, listened to a lot of the audiobook. This book is almost 500 pages long. I haven't read all of James Baldwin's work, and I think from what I've read, my favorite would be If Beale Street Could Talk. But I've also loved Giovanni's Room. I like this cover. I read the last one. I first did the movie, big deal. Not a very good movie, really. And then I did a play. And so found myself presently standing in the wings again, waiting for my cue. And I guess this is where he wrote the book. New York, Istanbul, San Francisco. Took him 2 years, from 1965 to 1967. I'm gonna go. I have to walk home. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed.